Hey YouTube fam, it's your girl V the Notary. Hope you guys are having a great day. So if you have been watching my video, and if you watch all of my videos, I hope you do, you saw my most recent video where I was talking about the rodent infestation with my new buyer client. So this was the tour from hell. It was 3 homes. Well, I guess it was the tour from hell, because to have both of these things happen on the same tour is wild. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about the second house that we went to go see. Third house was fine, a little bit nicer, still needed a lot of work, but not as crazy as the first two. Okay, so anyway, but before we get into the video, you know the deal. Please like the video. Stop what you're doing. Like. I appreciate it so much. It's a free way to continue to support me and assist me with growing my channel, get me in the algorithm. This YouTube algorithm is changing, y'all. It's not, it's harder to get views and to just get exposure to your videos. So liking the video will ensure that more people can see my content, okay? So again, we talked about the rat and mouse infestation. We talked about that. That's crazy. So we leave that house, go to the second house, right? It was around the same neighborhood, okay? Y'all, we walk into this house. Guess what was in there, or who was in there? Can y'all guess? So this is, before I tell you, this was my first experience with this situation. I think I had one other situation where I saw a mouse in a house during a house tour. Just one. Did it startle the hell out of me? Yes, but you know, again, not so abnormal in DC. Now this situation, you hear about this happening, but it's like if you run into this, it's like, oh, okay. There was a squatter in the house, y'all. So if you know, in case you don't know, a squatter is a person or persons that occupy a home for amount of time. Obviously, that is not theirs. Usually the owner has no recollection of it. It could be someone who breaks into a house or whatever. It's usually someone who breaks into a house. It's not always abandoned homes. It's usually homes that are, you know, vacant for whatever reason. Maybe they're waiting to be rented, they're waiting to be sold, whatever. And depending on where you live, squatters have rights, which is, to me, is crazy. But they do. In DC, I believe the squatter's rights are, if you occupy that home for 15 years or more, then you pretty much can take ownership of the house. Which you would hope that the actual landlord or the owner of the home within 15 years would like have, you know, found out that someone is occupying their house so that they can take the proper action. This particular townhouse was vacant. I think it's been on the market for 5 months. Now let me say this. I'm just gonna digress for 1 second. If you own a house or whatever and it's vacant, you put it on the market, make sure you're going to the house. Like, don't just leave the house vacant for months at a time without going to check on it. You know, if you have a realtor, which hopefully you do, if you're in DC or Maryland, you can always contact me. I would love to represent you. But it doesn't even have to be you. Just nudge your realtor, ask your realtor, you know, I'm sure that they wouldn't mind, you know, to check on the house from time to time. Specifically, if they're listing, you know, if they're listing the home for you, then usually, you know, realtors will go and make sure that everything's okay, especially if they're going to do open houses and things like that, you know, staging, etc. Don't just leave your house vacant without going to see about it, and I think weekly. That's my opinion. So that's just a caveat, you know, of best practices for you if you are selling your house. So this house has been on the market, I want to say 5 months. I'm getting there. Okay, so we walk into the house for the tour, and there's a person in there, a man. Scared the shit out of me, scared the shit out of my client. We're like, oh, you know, so we're kind of like, well, what's going on? So they're looking at us like we're crazy. And so we're like, hi, are you the owner of the house? No. Well, yeah, but no. So we're like, so immediately for safety purposes, I said, well, hold on. So I take my client outside. Um, I called the agent. I called the agent and I said, hey, what's going on? Because again, there's a lockbox on the house, on the door. Like, I opened the lockbox, the keys, whatever. Obviously, this particular gentleman doesn't have the code and can't access the lockbox, but the house was locked. Nothing. So we, just for safety reasons, we didn't continue with the tour. But in this instance, again, we go outside. Thank God it wasn't like snowing or anything. It has been hot in DC as of lately. It was during them hot days that we had recently. But yeah, so I called the agent and I'm like, do you know, is the owner here? Because he had basketball shorts on. Straight up basketball shorts, no top. He was looking like he was living there. And so I was like, is the owner here? The agent, he says, no. He was like, well, what's going on? I said, well, there's somebody in the house. So he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, there's somebody in the house that, when we open the door, they're in the living room looking like at us like, what the hell are we doing here? I told him, I asked the gentleman, oh, are you the owner? He's like, well, no, but yes. And he's like, no, there's nobody that's supposed to be in the home. So he was like, well, give me a second. Let me call, my client and let them know what's going on. So me and my client go sit in the car. Like, we're just like, okay, because we don't, you never want to expose yourself to a dangerous situation or have your client exposed to a dangerous situation. So we go sit in the car and it's funny. I don't know if the guy, I'm assuming he got scared because he kept looking out the window, right? So I'm like, I'm ready, keys in hand, and like, do we need to make a mad dash? Like, what are we doing here? So about 5 minutes later, the realtor gives me a call back and is like, no, I think somebody's squatting in the house. I'm like, oof. Because I know there's a lot that goes into like getting someone to leave the house. Now, again, so I asked him, I said, well, how long has it been since you come to look at this house? Like, so he says like a month. And again, I didn't want to get down to the nuts and bolts of like, well, how many tours have you had? Because I know the house has been on the market for a while. How many tours have you had? Because why are you just now finding this out? So he may or may not have been lying about the month. I'm more inclined to believe that it's probably been longer than a month since he's been, or anyone's been to this house, because the way that man looked comfortable in them basketball shorts leads me to believe that he's been in that house longer than a month. So, and I'm like, well, we don't feel comfortable. And he was like, no, I understand. So he called the police. Literally, we're sitting there because he's like, I'm like, well, tell me what to do, but we're not going to go back in there. So the police come there and get there about 4 minutes later, which in DC is pretty good because I've had to call the police about a hit and run and it took them an hour to come to me. But that's neither here nor there. So when the police get there, we just left because I'm just like, girl, we're not going in here to go look at this house. Like, if there's a squatting issue, who knows how long this could take, months, because technically this gentleman doesn't have to answer the door with the police there, so this could take months. Who knows how long? Squatting is a whole different situation. So yes, I had my first squatting situation. I don't know the statistics on squatters in DC. So I don't know how prevalent or how common it happens. I'm assuming it probably happens a lot. I know that there are certain states where squatting is a really bad issue. And I know that there are a lot of states where squatters have more protections than the landlord. And in DC, again, it's if you've occupied the house and been squatting in the home for 15 years, you actually can claim ownership. But I want to say that there might be some states, don't quote me on it, where squatters have rights after like some weeks, I think, which is crazy. But anyway, so yes, the tour from hell. First house, rodents. Second house, squatter. Third house was cool. And that's the one she's potentially thinking about putting an offer on, but we're going to go see another house. So that's my story time, my interesting house tour. Please, realtors, drop down in the comments. Let me know about any situations that you guys have had on tours or anything. I mean, being a realtor, it's just all kinds of funny stuff and crazy encounters that you have. One of these days, I'm going to do a video about other realtors, okay? Because honestly, that's where most of my issues are with the cooperating realtors on transactions. Realtors are off the chain. These realtors out here, y'all, oh my, most of them are terrible. We'll just put it like that. And sometimes when you're working with one and you're the buyer's agent, they're the seller's agent, or vice versa, and you guys essentially have to work together to bring this transaction to a close. Baby, some of these realtors, baby, they are off the chain. But that's a whole nother video. I'm gonna do a video on that one day, because some of this craziness with some of these realtors is just, it's too much. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. If you have not, please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.